What's up, everybody? So I got a new camera. We'll see if this one will actually work worth the crap. But yeah, so I'm back out here in the garage working on some stuff. It's been a while, but there's been a lot going on. Um, See, I got actually something that's wood in front of me this time around. I've been working on the big quarter scale Beech Starship, trying to get some new wing panels built for that. And pretty much you can see it's mostly framed up. One side sheeted, and the other side's pretty much ready to be sheeted at this point. I got all the wiring harnesses and everything in here. So I've had a couple of guys ask me how I sheet complex wings and just shapes in general. The Starships are pretty simple when compared to something like the Horton 229 wings, where they're curved in multiple directions, and the top sheeting is like a compound curve. The Starship's pretty benign. There is a little bit of a compound curve in this area, but nothing too bad. So the method I use to go about sheeting complex wings, or even just very large wings, to where you don't have enough time to get all of the balsa wood in place with just like thick CA or anything, is I actually iron the sheeting on just using your regular old household iron. You can even use a monocoat iron for smaller pieces. But I built up the wing skins in the size that I need. Here's the wing skin for this one. And then here along the trailing edge, I just basically do a book spine with a piece of masking tape to hold the skin in place. After that, just some regular old Titebond wood glue. See, it's nothing special. This is Titebond 3, which I believe is the waterproof kind, or the water resistant kind. Waterproof for exterior use. It doesn't really matter which ones you use, just as long as it's some sort of wood glue. And pretty much after that, it's just a matter of going along all of the structure and putting this glue over everything. This big bottle works really well for doing large parts like your wing spars or your trailing edge skin. My trailing edge, and I put a piece of either 1/32 or 1/64 ply along it just to give it as a hard edge. And then for smaller pieces like wing ribs and stuff, I've got this little bottle here with just a little hypodermic needle. It's not sharp, it's a blunt needle, so it won't pop you, it won't poke you or anything. But I bought a bunch of these off of either Amazon or maybe eBay. It was the bottle and then like 10 or 12 different little needles of different sizes. And just fill this up with that Titebond wood glue, the biggest nozzle you can get on it, and then you just go along and trace all your surfaces with the wood glue. It's a little bit of a time-consuming process, just because you got to do all the wing ribs, all the shear webs, pretty much anything the wing skin is going to touch, you want to put glue on. It's kind of a old school method of doing things, to where I don't think a lot of people know about it or have ever seen it actually done. The first time I ever used it was on the Horton wings, when I built those up out of balsa wood. And for as complex as those wings were, it was amazing how well it worked. I got a couple of pieces on here. Let me see if I can get this zoomed in a bit. Basically, you just see run the glue bottle right down to all your wing ribs and everything. Now I'm off the. Now is when I need a tripod that has remote control use of it, so I can just zoom it around. Same thing, just run it down. You said you want to get on everywhere that the wing skin is going to touch, you want glue. And that'll make sense in here in just a moment, because you would think you're just going to put this on there and then run an iron down it and you're good to go, but it's a little bit different than that. And since this Titebond wood glue is a good bit of water, you don't have to worry about getting too much or not enough. This is one of those instances where more is better. because you want to make sure that you get a really good squish of the glue when you put the skin down on top of it. I'll get the camera here in just a second and give you a close-up once I get everything done. Alright, there's all the ribs, and then I just use the full-size bottle to come back and do everything like the trailing edge, the wing rib, or the spars, hinge blocks, any of that stuff. Since the spars would take all of the loads from flying, I like to put a lot of glue on these. Again, this stuff is mostly water, so it'll evaporate out, so you don't have to worry too much about the weight from it. But I put in a ton of it on the spars and just let it run down the edges once you put the skin down. There's that. And now one last bead right down the leading edge. The thing I like to do about with my wings, I like to put an 1/8 or a 3/16 inch balsa false leading edge. And what that does is it lets you sheet all the way up to the front without leaving any sort of, it doesn't allow the balsa wood to just hang in free air or free space between the ribs until you get the actual leading edge on. And it also shows the actual leading edge. It shows the seam line, that way you know if you're getting too close to where the edge of the sheeting is. That way you don't sand through the sheeting and the false leading edge and then undo it. So here you can just see just a whole bunch of glue everywhere. Sorry it's kind of zoomed in, but hey, first time using a new camera, so we'll get used to it here in a bit. Let me rearrange you guys and zoom you back out. And now the reason for the book binding, basically just pick up your skin and just fold it down. So I got it along the trailing edge because that's my reference line for when I do the majority of the assembling of this thing. And then what you do is just take your hands and push the skin down on all of the structure everywhere. Get it pushed down really, really good. And you'll feel it in some spots. You'll actually feel the glue kind of create some suction to it and want to hold the skin down, and you'll hear it pop loose. That's what you're looking for. You want to get this pushed down really good. Because what you're doing is you're actually taking the glue that you put on the structure and you're transferring it over onto this wing skin. So you'll know exactly where all your glue joints are. And then you open the book up again. And with the book open, let me get my, you'll see that on the top skin you have all these little lines that are transferred. That's all your structures. Now you're not going to get a 100% good transfer everywhere, but what you want is you want a good enough transfer to where you know where things are. Go back with your glue bottle and put your nice thick bead of glue right where that piece of structure be, and then just use your finger to flatten it out. And do that on everything. Again, we're not too worried about the weight because a lot of this is water and it'll evaporate. But you want a really good thick glue bead right here. That way, once you start to iron it on, it sticks really, really well. And you also want it to be pretty pretty wide. That way, if there's any bit of misalignment compared to when we just put it down, when you put it down for the final time, it still has glue on both your structure and the sheathing here. This is also why I put a lot of glue on the spars, because it squishes it out onto the shear webs and everything. And that's putting more glue on. You want to do it on both the wing skin and the structure again. Because the first time you try this, if you decide to try it, you'll notice that when you put the skin on, sometimes it gets a little bit, the glue on the structure gets a little splotchy because you squirted a lot of it off the structure, or more of it stuck in some spots on the skin than it did others. So you just kind of gotta, it's one of those things where you gotta do it and try it before you really get a good chance at seeing how well it works. Like I said, the first time I tried it, I was amazed. It made sheathing a wing like the Horton wing extremely simple. So now anytime I have a big wing that's more than 2 or 3 sheets of balsa wide, this is what I use, and it works phenomenally well. And it doesn't really take all that much extra time. The only extra time really is waiting for this stuff to dry, because you don't close it up once you get all this glue on. You leave it open just like this, and you allow the glue joints, all the glue on the skin and the sheathing or the structure to dry. And you're probably wondering, what do you mean you leave it open and let it dry? Sure, there's some chemist out there that knows why, but best I can figure is when you leave it open, the glue gets to dry, and then once you apply heat, it basically just reconstitutes the glue into almost like a contact adhesive, where it works extremely well and it just sticks back to itself. Don't know why, but hey, we'll just say it's magic. How about that? Make sure you have some paper towels too, because this is kind of messy when you're thinning, smearing this glue to a nice flat area. Trailing edges, again, I like to get a nice, good, thick seam layer of glue here on the trailing edge. Especially want good layer of glue on everything around openings like servo hatches or the leading edges, the tips, tip ribs, root ribs, structure, such here like where wing tube sockets end, places like that. That way you don't get any weak spots built into your wing. My little bottle ran out of glue, that's why I'm using the big bottle here. You can use it, it's just, you gotta be a little bit more finesse with it, so you don't run a huge glob of glue down the edge of the wing rib. Alright, there we go. So now we got glue on everything. Now you got a couple of options. You can be patient and wait for all of this to dry, which this is a great thing to do at the end of the night. Let it dry overnight, then wake up and it's ready to go. Or if you're mostly impatient like I am, you can go get you a heat gun and you can force air dry it. So I'm probably going to use the heat gun option. I just got to go find it. Give me just a second. Unless, of course, I can't find it, then we'll just not force air dry it. Yep, here we go. Alright, heat gun. This is a method that is really hard to see on the camera, but I'll do my best. Just throw it on high. You probably can't see it, but some of the glue has a little bit of a shiny look to it because it's still wet. With your heat gun, just go over all of the structure for all your glue areas and heat gun them until the shininess is gone. Alright, now the heat gunning is done. Now what you need, depending on the size of the piece you're going to do, you need an iron. That could be your wife's clothes iron, it could be a monocoat iron, it could even be a trim tool. But I wouldn't recommend a trim tool. I'd definitely get at least a monocoat iron. And plug it up and let it heat up, which mine's been good doing that for a while. So then just close up the sheeting book again. And there we go with that. What I'm going to do is rearrange some stuff. And my personal preference when it comes to sheeting things, I like to start along the trailing edge of any openings. In this case, what I mean is the trailing edge along the elevon spar of the wing. And I like to go down that as far from basically the center of the wing, one end to the other. Just take you a good old cheap, soft dish towel, t-shirt, whatever you want to use. Get your iron, make sure it's full of water, which hopefully my son did for me. And turn it all the way up to almost as high as you can get it. Stuff your iron on. And then just kind of steam it a little bit. Start here and we'll just leave it for a few seconds, and then we'll move it over about the width of the iron, and we'll hold it there for a few seconds. And then use one corner of the rag to hold it down and let this area cool to where you can basically touch it with your bare hands. Once you get the first line done, it goes pretty quickly after this, unless it's a pretty complex shaped wing, in which case it takes a little bit more work because you gotta do a spot, let it cool, especially in like a highly curved area. Like in this area of the wing on the Starship is a little bit difficult just because of the shape. But the biggest advantage to this method for fairly large wings is you can make up your entire wing skin, and then you can pretty much final sand and rough sand it all the way down to where the seams are nice and smooth before you put it on. That way when you go to, since it's on the structure, if you have really wide rib spacing, you don't have to worry about the high spots where the ribs are, where it's a harder area. You don't have to worry about that area getting sanded more than the area between the ribs, and you end up with that starved horse effect to where it just kind of scouts between them. All right, there we go. That part is stuck down nice and good. Usually I'm picking up on it, it doesn't want to peel away. So what we'll do is now we'll just move from this area down to the trailing edge, or down to the wing, to the tip of it. Same thing, just a little bit of steam. And you don't have to sit in the same spot quite as long. If you sit over that spot you just glued too long, it'll actually soften the glue back up and then it'll come back off on you. So we'll just sit here and work our way down the rag and down the trailing edge. About the length of the iron, maybe just a little bit more. Peel it off. Fold the rag over and hold it till it cools. I think this is a pretty old school way of doing things. I had never seen it till, I guess about almost 10 years ago now when I did the Hortons. And I was just amazed that it worked. And this isn't the only thing you can use this method on. You can also use it to make your wing skins. Like the wing skins for this, they're all cut from 4-inch pieces of balsa wood sheet. They're all laser cut interlocking, so it makes putting it all together. But then what it is, I just did the same thing. I did this tape along the trailing edge to make a book binding, basically, or a book spine. Folded it open, put the glue down the edge of the sheeting, closed it up, and then I took the iron and everything and just went right down the seam of it. And it seamed them together really well, and it does a lot nicer joint than like a thin CA does, because it doesn't leave a hard, crisp edge. So it sands super, super nice. Alright, there we go. That's cleaned up, or cooled down a little bit. You can see there's not much movement to it. So same thing, we'll just keep repeating.